Gupta, sir, can you unmute yourself? Professor Anil Gupta. Okay, we'll wait for 5 more minutes and we'll check. We'll begin shortly. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Vikas sir. Vikas Kamli sir, can you unmute yourselves once?
Let me check with Vikas Gambhir.
Okay, sure.
It seems he's unmuted the phone, but we are not able to hear him. Let me check with him.
Okay.
Sure, thanks.
Yeah, Rashri, Vikas, this is Devi.
Yes, sir, you're audible. Thank you
Okay,
so
fine.
much.
Thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today with our time on COVID-19 Academy panel discussion. As you know, the COVID-19 Academy is a joint capacity building initiative of NIDM, UNICEF, WHO India, HCL Foundation, and Sphere India for volunteers and outreach workers. We have a very special training session planned today called Financial Management and Control Practices for Not-for-Profit Organizations. We have eminent panelists to share their expertise today, which consist of Dr. Anil Kumar Gupta from NIDM. Dr. Anil Kumar Gupta will be giving opening remarks for the session. Anil Kumar Gupta is a sustainability risk management strategist working in area of disaster management, environment, and climate resilience for more than 25 years with national, subnational, and business administration. He is currently full professor and head of the NIDM Division of Environment and Disaster Risk Management. We are delighted to have you here, sir. Thank you so much for joining. Next up, we have speakers from Grant Thornton Bharat. Grant Thornton Bharat is a part of GT International Limited. It is at the forefront of helping reshape the values in our profession and in the process help shape a more vibrant Indian economy. It aims to be the most promoted firm in providing the robust compliance services to dynamic Indian global companies and to help them navigate the challenges of growth as they globalize. We have Mr. Vikas Gambhir, who is the Executive Director for GT Bharat. We welcome you, sir. Mr. Vikas has over 2 decades of experience in servicing large clients in the areas of capacity building, donor-based reviews, grant audits, and governance advisory. For past decade, he is focused on not only on not-for-profit practice group and being instrumental in institutionalizing it within the firm, which is now the only focused practice group among the peers to have services offerings cutting across the assurance, tax, advisory in single pool. We are delighted to have you here, sir. Next up, we have Sudhi Jain, the Associate Director for GT Bharat. Ms. Sudhi has over 14 years of experience in servicing large multinational clients in areas of project and grant audits, internal audit, due diligence, developing SOPs, and advisory services. She is the expert with significant technical knowledge and practical experience in providing capacity building and handholding support to not-for-profit organizations. She has worked extensively with NGOs and foundations and assisted them on multiple advisory and assurance services. Welcome, ma'am. Then next up, we have Vikas Arora, a specialist from GT Bharat. Vikas sir has over 10 years of experience and has been extensively involved in providing advisory solutions to large multinational clients in the area of capacity building, developing standard operating procedures, financial management system review, expenditure reviews, budget variances, reporting, internal audit, project audits, grant reviews, and expenditure certifications, due diligence evaluation, and CSR report writings. Welcome to the session, sir. And I request Mr. Anil to start the session and then hand over the session to Ms. Sudhi Jain for moderating the session. Uh, Over to you, Dr. Anil Kumar Gupta, sir.
Very good afternoon and thank you. And my compliments to the COVID-19 Academy team. As we often discuss at various forums that how risk can be reaped as opportunity. So the initiative of Sphere India jointly with partners including us in the form of COVID-19 Academy is kind of a very good example to look at this period of COVID-19 pandemic as a great opportunity to build on capacities for various dimensions of disaster response and also disaster risk management. And I have been witnessing a series of topics that has been covered under this COVID-19 Academy. So this topic that is being focused today. I think that is a very, very centrally important component, because everything boils down to economics, and any kind of preparedness or any kind of uh, efficient intervention during a disaster crisis or disaster risk period, uh, the financial resources, and not only in terms of availability but in terms of continuous availability. So I would say that financial sustainability of resources, so that is very important dimension. So my compliments to team for choosing this very important topic for today's session. Regarding this COVID-19 Academy, since this morning we had the committee meeting of Sphere India also. So I would suggest that when COVID-19 pandemic will be likely to over, but this academy that has evolved over past 10 months of time, doing excellent contribution, that should continue. So whether we keep it as COVID-19 Academy, or we call it Sphere Training Academy or something, but it has really evolved into such a nice framework that this activity should continue. And even the more areas of even to include soft skills, management skills associated with the disaster relief management should also be incorporated. Maybe we can think of converting these programs into certificate programs or something like that also, so that it has more professional advantage also to the participants. Particularly the topic that has been chosen today. So I would relate with the experience the Asia Pacific had when this COVID pandemic started. Not only in India, but most of the countries in Asia, uh, more than 70% of the businesses never had any uh, kind of a preparedness or planning for business continuity. And even less than 30% of the businesses and industries which had business continuity or business sustainability kind of thing in their management systems. They seldom included disasters or environmental emergencies as a major impediment to their businesses. So that lesson, first lesson, that there has to be business continuity in place, and business continuity need to be integrated with the business sustainability. So not looking at the risk management, but also looking at the medium term and long term issues also. Second thing, that the concept of business continuity and business resilience, integrated sustainability, to include disaster related shocks. And then that overall framework that we often talk in terms of businesses or industries, can also apply to the even medium level, or even sometimes the small level NGOs, are when small NGOs are there. So we can better call it network of NGOs. So because when I say business, does not mean that only a profit making concern is business. Any kind of intervention where there are some kind of investment and we are expecting some returns, maybe in the form of risk management, maybe form of the capacity building and disaster management. So all those are some form of businesses only, whether it is some kind of entity or urban local body or panchayat Raj institutions, are working for these institutions, various number of NGOs. Today we are focusing here on the sustainability of NGOs in terms of finance. So can insurance sector help? Can any kind of micro credit related like systems can be thought of? And then what resource optimization are the austerity measures so that we avoid the duplicacy. We develop a network of the institutions and agencies and see that how we avoid the duplicacy. And then taking the experience of all those, what shall be the framework of financial crisis management plan for these kind of institutions. So in order to ensure that the NGOs which are associated with the with disaster relief and response, and also in recovery related issues, they themselves do not suffer. So what shall be the proactive management strategy? And there we can also look at that there are several schemes and programs of government also where the association of NGOs are envisaged. So there can we have a little bit of tweaking or more customization into those schemes, so to help these voluntary organizations attain the resilience against possible financial shocks. So these are few points of thought that that came to my mind, and I thought of sharing as a kind of a opening remarks for this program, and that may form some point of discussion in these following deliberations. So with this, I thank you very much for inviting me to give this opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Thanks for your valuable inputs. Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to all the panelists, speakers, and the participants. To begin the session, I'll request Vikas Gambhir from Grant Thornton to please give us an introduction and set the context. So certain ground rules.
Thanks.
Sorry, Vikas, I'll just take a minute. Certain ground rules will take about 45 to 50 minutes to present this session. I request all the participants to please write their questions on the chat box or raise their hands. We have kept half an hour session for the Q&A, and at the end of the presentation, we'll try to cover maximum questions, either from the chat box or inviting the participant to have their questions directly. Thank you. Over to you, Vikas.
Sure, thanks. Good evening all, and thanks Dr. Gupta for setting the opening remarks. And of course, as you rightly said, we'd like to congratulate Sphere India for running this academy for past so many months across various topics of relevance amidst this time. So in the current context, we at Grant Thornton and Sphere India collaborated for this series, wherein we'll be talking through multiple webinars, of course, on financial management, on other related processes of NGOs. We'll be also talking through impact and sustainable reporting. And of course, in the current parlance of regulatory changes, there would be a focus on compliances and taxation also in the subsequent webinars that we intend to run parallelly for next couple of months with Sphere India. So as Dr. Gupta also said, the presidents, I think in the past 1 year, overall, the way we have witnessed, things changing, and of course, the way the circumstances happened and the countermeasures, in a very unprecedented way got established. Many organizations invoked their business continuity plans, whosoever was able to do it. But of course, with the not-for-profit organization or social sector, this has been a consuming time, because in certain cases the work stopped. In certain cases, the donors and the other stakeholders diverted the efforts toward COVID response and relief. And of course, most of the social organizations and donors were on the ground to respond to this pandemic in whatever way, whether it's health related initiatives or distribution, or there are many programs that got triggered off during this pandemic. And of course, when a disaster happens, and that too at a magnitude of this level, there is always a requirement to make sure that various processes within the organization stand strong. including financial management, human resources, program management overall per se, procurement and logistics, which played a very crucial role during this time, administration, information technology. So all this put together plays a very critical role, not within the organization, but I think it gives the comfort to the outside stakeholders also, including the donors and of course, other stakeholders. So keeping that in perspective, what actually we did, and the reason we were having this session, we actually curated a NGO handbook, in the middle of the year around, which of course at that time, situation was different, the struggles were different, and that's the way we curated that handbook, which had a lot of checklist guidance related points across these areas, which I just spoke about. Whether it was financial management, budgeting, program, procurement, HR, and of course from there we tried to update the document as a lot of unlearning and relearning happened over a period of time. So this handbook, now the intent is that we, and of course, keeping in perspective the changes in the regulation happening after September, there are a lot of programmatic and other elements which are undergone a change by many NGOs, whether it's international, domestic, or grassroots level organization. So this handbook will also get evolved along with those changes. And the perspective is that this would serve as a sort of a ready reckoner checklist guide across all those functions. Also, we'll try to dovetail the regulatory and the compliance and taxation related points also. And then once we complete these sessions in next subsequent weeks, we would then release an updated handbook, keeping all these updated processes in mind. And then, of course, we'll pick up your feedback and inputs also as we go along with this journey. So the entire exercise is more to make sure that it's a capacity building initiative, collectively from our side, Sphere India. And of course, add on a lot of case studies and learning experiences also as part of this, 1 year gone by amidst current circumstances. And actually, when we curated this handbook, if we go to the next slide, so a lot of experience went into it from our side, since we work with close to 600-700 partners organization on an annualized basis. And of course, a lot of CSR foundations and many institutional donors. But also what we did that we got this ratified or endorsed by the industry leaders also. So if you see, we have CFOs, admin heads, procurement leads of, best of the possible organizations there in the country, which is, probably from CARE, Clinton Health, Oxfam, PCI, Jupygo, Plan India, HIV India Alliance, HelpAge. So all these people made sure that these guys went through, this handbook, provided their inputs and all. And then we curated it in a form of a guidelines or a checklist document. And today the perspective is to let you through those critical points across the financial management, because it's really difficult to club everything in a one session. And so we'll be taking it in a piecemeal that today we deal with financial management, the other related controls. And in the subsequent session, we talk about other sub areas within key processes for capacity building initiatives. So that's a brief context behind this webinar which we have started, or a series which we have started, and today is the first one. And we look forward for an engaging discussion and inputs from your side. And thank you all, and I request Sudhi and Vikas to take this forward with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vikas. Vikas, if we can move to the next slide. Okay, so in today's session, as Vikas mentioned, we would be covering key components of financial management, starting from overview of financial management to effective financial controls that are required by the organization. We'll also touch base the relevance of financial policy and procedures, along with cash flow forecasting models and then the importance of management information system. Vikas, if you can move to the next slide.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's move to the next slide. Okay, to begin with, financial management entails planning, organizing, controlling, and monitoring the financial resources of an organization. Financial management is just not about keeping accounting records. It is an important part of the organization, which should not be seen as a separate activity for the finance department. If we look at our organization, the poor financial controlling, what does it means? It means that the assets of the organization will be put at risk of theft or fraud or abuse. Organization funds have not been spent in accordance with the NGO's objective or the donor's requirement. Or in few cases, the competence of the managers can also be questioned. So financial management, it is a concept of a financial control. It describes a situation where the financial resources of an organization are being correctly and efficiently used. How will this happen? So an organization needs to put across a strong and a relevant financial policy and procedures in place. Also, organization needs to set up the budgets in the beginning of the year and monitor it regularly, again, as per the organization, as well as the donor's requirement. Some of the key elements of financial management, if we look at it, starts from financial planning, record management, financial monitoring, and internal controls. We would be covering each of these components in detail in the subsequent slides. Because let's go to the next one. Yeah. Now the question arises, why do we really need to have financial management? What is the importance and relevance of financial management? If we look at financial management is about actively looking after your organization financial health. Let's look at how can we do this. To begin with, we need to manage our scarce resources. As we understand, NGO operate in a competitive environment where donor funds are scarce, and we need to ensure that the donated funds and the resources are used effectively. Moving next is managing risk. All organizations face internal and external risk, which can threaten the operations and even survival of the organization. So the risk at an organization level must be identified and actively managed in an organized way to limit the damage. What Mr. Gupta and Vikas also emphasized, like, rising uncertainties, especially in the current scenario and in the global market, it makes the financial risk management more complex and also essential in the day-to-day operations of the organization. The next is, how do we manage our financial health strategically? If we understand it, financial management is a part of the management as a whole. And the managers or the key stakeholders of the organization needs to look at a bigger picture, look at the whole organization, understand how it has been financed, and responding to the current economics slowdown. It requires sensitive management of the finances, balancing the short-term requirements with the long-term plans of the organization. Last but not the least, manage the financial health of your organization objectively. This entails three components, which we call as a project management cycle. It starts from plan, do, and review. when we talk about plan, the key aspects are you need to put across a financial plan document along with setting your budgets at the beginning of the year. Moving to the next component, which covers do. Implement your plan. Spend the money which you have received from the donor. The achieve the goals which has been set out in the planning stage. The last part is review, the key important part. Monitor and review the plans as compared to the original plan. Assess if the organization is able to meet the targets. In case of any deviation, relook at your plan and then replan the activities. Let's look at some of the key controls and best practices which any organization would require. It starts from maintaining adequate cash flow and updating the forecast model, especially in the current pandemic. Please ensure that all the transactions are accounted properly as per the defined chart of accounts. Manage your bank accounts. Assign designated authorities for signing checks, for authorizing payroll and other payments with adequate segregation of duties. Again, to re-emphasize on the fact and to see where we are, at this hour of crisis, it is essential for organization to plan for the present and for the future. Looking at all these aspects, I am sure a few of you would have a question: why do we really need a financial management framework? What does it lead to? Honestly, a good financial management framework at an organization level will help us to be accountable to our donor who are giving us money, to the community who we are serving. It enables us to produce financial management for regulatory bodies while minimizing the risk of fraud or theft or ineffective use of resources. It also helps us in planning for the future and also makes us more financially secure. It enables our staff to make better decisions on the use of funds. It imbibes good financial planning and also demonstrate accountability and transparency, which will inspire the confidence and trust in stakeholders, thereby increasing the credibility, the overall credibility of the organization. Vikas, let's move to the next slide. Now, after understanding of how, what, and why do we need financial management, it's equally important to understand who will ensure and whose responsibility is to ensure or have a good financial management framework in place. So the financial management in an organization is undertaken by its governing body, by board members, and the finance staff also. And each of these stakeholders is responsible to achieve the objectives of an organization and has an important role to play in financial management. To begin with, the governing body and board members play lead role in financial management. They provide strategy consultation to the head of the organization and finance head. Governance body plans and policies, the chip and sound direction to the board members. Implementation and supervision of these plans would be the responsibility of finance head with the support of finance staff. In addition to involving the finance team, inputs from various other departments is also relevant to make the plan more comprehensive and relevant. Support from the external advisors can also be taken. As we look at, authority for day-to-day financial management task is delegated from the top, which includes our governing body and board members, as per the outline delegation of authority. But at the same time, the accountability and the responsibility process comes back through the structure as people report back on the progress. What do we look at out here? We are talking about a strategy consultation with the senior management. For an effective financial management framework, it has to be a management-led approach. This would lead to proficient resource management, and we would at the end have competent financial controls in place. From like now, I'll request or hand over the session to Vikas Arora, who will cover and present each of these components or the key aspects of financial management in detail. Vikas, over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Sudhi. So good evening, everyone. This is Vikas Arora, as introduced. So I'll continue to take up this session up rightly as Sudhi mentioned. So now if we move to the next topic of the session is effective financial control. So important element I would like everyone to give few seconds to the content is appearing on your screen. So as effective management says start with planning, and as we emphasize at the importance of that part. So in a similar way, financial planning and budgeting is actually more important to start with. And as a best practice, it should be considered, at the beginning of the financial year, wherein inputs from all the departments should be taken, vis-a-vis, organization ongoing projects, and definitely projects to be implemented in coming time. It should be, considered at the time of, planning. And needless to say that it should be in sync with the vision and the mission of the organization. Importantly, if you see the right side, which is the pyramid appearing as a top-down approach, which start with definitely as a vision of organization, mission to the objectives, then strategies, then activity plans, and then definitely implementation and operational procedures. Thus, while devising these operational budget and a financial strategy need to be keep in mind, so that to have a macro controls. Even likewise we introduce even with the disaster relief projects, it is more important to see these aspects at the beginning, so that it can be navigated and implemented in a controlled manner. Even also, we have witnessed working with many of the organization at the time of budget part, that somewhere or the other, by the time project implementation gears up, monitoring of budget weakens up, or would say organization put less emphasis on monitoring the budget, and later towards end course or coming towards closure, most of the time project team realize different variation in the activities, and at that point of a time it's too late to cover up with the past actions, and organization ending up in in different results. This is always advisable to monitor the budget and the actual activities on fixed intervals, irrespective of the pace of the project in terms of programmatic implementation, which is directly linked to your financial cost. That is the reason we talk that financial controls is very much related, and we found monthly monitoring helps most of the organization and different nature of projects, though except shorter implementing projects have a different view, though based on our experience in working on different projects with different organizations, we we can say that part. So by and large, if you see the the bottom part which is specifically in the content, where we say that activity plan, budget and respective work plans in line with your cash flow forecast are the important aspects, would say even key pillars in the effective financial planning. And needless to say these overall put together as a best controls and plan part. Yeah, so now moving to the next component. If you see how with this COVID pandemic, there is a change where organizations can see how modification in planning and budgeting could be there, because we see with the change of time this year, post COVID, it become more important for organization, even to replan, to revisit, and monitor the financial plans, which is actually the budgets as well, on regular intervals. As donor, with support of the organization, organization should discuss, brainstorm with donor budgeting team, wherein change in the implementation norms if required. So we is always advisable to organization that they need to strategize, they need to financial component even as well of sub budget line items in all the possible scenario. It can be sub activities, it can be main activities. Definitely, with changing unit of activities also is there, specifically with donor approval, in case to case basis. Also, the revised budgets, if we talk about, based on your revised cash flow forecast, with the time of, would say of, 6 months, 9 months, a year, or more than that, it must be verified and, certified by the finance, accounts, concern managers, to ensure that costs are realistic, as compared to the activities. And the budget should capture all the required costs for such activities only, so that it could be correlated and linked with each one. Even to put a simple simple example, we were discussing and understanding that one of the project budget and cost assumption, with one of the renowned organization, and they realized, by the time passed and realistically, with the structure of project, and definitely add on with the current circumstances, I'm sure you will also acknowledge that relevance of travel cost, in the budget is comparatively less significant. And that organization, planned and put weightage, even, in the activity, definitely as support to the financial cost on simple app, to feed in data, where they coordinate with the field staff, which eventually change their funds flows as well, and budgeting. Of course, these were more in the line with approval from donor. So, in a nutshell, if you put, these are very important aspect, to plan, to keep these aspect in, mind. Definitely, now, I would like to move to the accounting records part, which is, very important topic. Even we see as a one of the basic, element, is actually accounting method, and organization follow basis their structure and environment. Likewise, the cash accounting and the accrual basis of accounting. Importantly, I would say the most of institutional and corporate donors, likewise, we seen as a global fund, even they asked to follow, cash basis of accounting for, recording and reporting the expenses as and when incurred. And in form of utilization certificate or the statement of expenditure, any deviation, to it considered as, considered or maybe allowed cost or disallowed cost. So that is categorized in that way. So, from the accounting records, it is very important. And if you see in terms of financial statements, mostly these statement, like which is listed here also, like balance sheet, the income and expenditure, and the receipts and payment, are the components of, set of the financial statement. I'm sure most of you, would, say and, add on this. Wherein donor specific reports are to be submitted on, project and case to case basis, based on the donor requirements, which usually they communicate, whenever we, sign up the MOU with them. And based on these statements, if you see the accounting records, largely the organization books of accounts, which needs to be specifically, there was, listed here, like bank, bank book, cash book, general ledgers, a day book, and petty cash book. And altogether, definitely compiles a set of financial statement. Also, we have witnessed, working with many of the organization, somewhere or the other, gaps we noted in keeping the, the cost center accounting. And I'm sure most of the, people who, are here on the session will agree definitely, the cost center accounting, which is now has to be followed for most of the donor funding projects to have a, transparency and better reporting controls. So if we combine all these aspects, these are very important, and it is all linked, which we have so far discussed and mentioned uh, uh, for all the overall accounting records. And definitely with the supporting documentation part, if you see, this is also a very important element which cannot be excluded on these aspects. Like for supporting documents, we always see, and on the review aspect, we see that income and expenditure transaction voucher, which are nothing but the approved receipts and payment vouchers, even the original and the valid invoices of the related payments, definitely. And along with this, the receipt of acknowledgement, and the activity related documentation. Likewise, in most of the disaster relief projects, we see in the distribution records, the minutes of meeting of the activity. Then definitely, field level records, which is, vary from activity to activity. That is also important, supporting documents part. And in case of procurements, which is also by and large imbibed in most of the projects, where the documentations should be detailed, have to be a trail, like starting from purchase request, the valid quotations, the comparatives, the delivery receipts, and maybe more or less from case to case basis. I'm just giving a macro view on the documentation part, which is equally important as a subset of record management. Definitely now, if we see, from the accounting perspective and the documentation perspective, which we have discussed now, we should also see the accounting for shared cost. As almost all the organization, have multiple funding sources, and the, donor funded projects. So, uh, need to have, right control on the accounting for, common or shared cost, largely indirect cost, where we see a lot of understanding gaps, or the fluctuations while putting the financial element to it. So importantly, that organizations should have right ways or means to apportion or allocate the cost to multiple projects. It should be definitely defined as a policy and procedures to pass on the comfort for donor review, and of course multiple audit reviews is came across. So important controls, if I talk about, like timesheet management for charging salary cost, this is the environment, the roles in the project. So if one person is working on multiple projects, so definitely that needs to be transparent, and that should be properly defined with the organization part. And similarly, the way the basic of charging office maintenance and other utilities running cost is also be part of that. Yeah, so moving to the next slide, which also summarize and talks about the accounting records, which we have largely seen. Now if you see, these are the comparison table, the points which are listed on presentation document. It gives you a macro view of difference between the financial accounting and management accounting. So if you clearly see the how financial accountings put like definitely a record transactions, then classify properly. It definitely is an equal emphasis on reconciling the records, summarize, and definitely it would need it to be have a in the financial reporting, which will come at the later part of this session. And definitely if you see the right side of it, it talks about management accounting. I'm sure most of people can correlate what is the difference, and both are equally important, where management accounting compares the actuals against the budget, where you have a specific projects with the donor based, and budget versus actual, which is the variance reports most of the donor ask. And from the monitoring perspective, you also keep certain burn rates, the utilization parts, which will help you to identify the correctify action at the correct time. And obviously it is provides the forecast, which is important element with the current circumstances, where we have a lot of not visibility from that donor funded projects. And definitely these information, once we put the analysis, it compiles with the report part, and overall with your records management. Definitely, if you see, the few of the part where it is a chart of accounts, the cost center, and the optimized cost structure, I will take up minute in put a little emphasis, because I'm sure it is more related, and when we came across the right chart of accounts helps you to put these aspects all together to make your financial controls, and to deal with in a transparent manner. And definitely, as a need of the requirement with the multiple projects, the cost centers, which we have talked about. So it is also we have seen wherever organizations have a lack of, or maybe gap in the cost centers, it fumbles actually. It gives not a good transparency and the review mechanism to the donors. And definitely to optimize, it will have your cost structure properly, which can help you in both the financial accounting and the management accounting with the reporting part. Yeah, so in a similar way, if we take, it will definitely lead to the reporting part, which is equally and more important to summarize these information and put into the management accounts. Definitely, likewise, we explain the financial reporting and the management reporting. So here we talk about the both reports. One is definitely for your, for internal stakeholders, which is, the senior, board, and the governance structure part. And definitely there are few, external stakeholders where most of the reports is required. Likewise, if you see in putting in that in front of you as a screen, where the donor progress report, which is financial and definitely related to program, or external reports, which is considered as a management reporting, which by and large includes the donor report, the audited financial statements, your annual report. Then definitely reports should have beneficiary on case to case basis as required. And definitely the special progress reports to donor agencies, likewise it is also a part of reporting, and it is equally important. And with these structure, where more or less organization are virtually performing few of the activities, annual accounts are also be linked with different offices, different channelized. So at the end of a period, maybe 3 months, 6 months, or yearly basis, these reports has to be produced. And with these structure, if we see which we have listed and explained, it produce the report and outcome to the external stakeholders. So definitely all these aspects will be help you in putting the financial control in a right manner. And if you see with the changing times, and the reports part, which is now cutting as a deliverable to the donors and management, it is very important to enable key stakeholders to scrutinize the figures, the review progress in programs. And it should so that it can also be taken, a decision can also be taken on follow-up action as needed. So these reports, must be like, timely, accurate, and relevant, which is, a very important aspect. And, to track the monitor progress in the programs. Definitely, if we see with the period, of 3 months, 6 months, depending on the project to project, it will help, them to track and monitor the progress. And definitely, it will give more accountability to external stakeholders like, the government agencies, donors, and definitely in few cases the local communities as well, where they required, organization to report. And definitely budget monitoring report, to assess the budget versus actuals, which is also most of the time, as a key component, where we have, put in the activity units, the financial part, and the cost to it as well. And in a similar way, if we combine all the aspect, definitely it is the first focus on your plan, and then review, and then monitor. And then, procedures has to be put across in the reporting. And, while compiling if all the aspects, if we see it, it also, has to be in the proper presentation, because that will also give readable, content part to the donors as well. And a few of the reports we have, as a part of, overall control, where certain reporting has to be made in donor currencies. So, the control on the exchange rate, which reporting to donors also embed an important part of it. Definitely, as per the standards, as per the, requirement, as per the organization environment, is equally important to have in reporting standards. And I'm sure by the time, if we're running on these aspects, you will definitely see that, if we properly understand and assess these aspects, we will more be comply with, rules, regulation, and the donor requirements. And having said that, it will definitely, safeguard, as an organization, to to safeguard actually the donor funds, against misappropriation part or fraud part, if we have the right controls over it. And definitely it will assist you to the capacity building needs also. And I'm sure with this, few of the aspects you will add on, once you hear back. And definitely it will have to you to follow up on the monitoring gaps and the, issues which we take in the corrective action. So so it is actually, combined in all aspects will to take a more, part of it. Moving to next is definitely a, internal controls, with this, all the aspects, if we see, definitely when we put these controls, there are few other aspects which, came across to the table and, surface during your analysis part. So it always, start with your diagnose, you should diagnose your, framework, how it looks like in, overall structure. And definitely once we diagnose, we assess these aspects, it will help you to integrate, it will help to integrate the control framework as well, with the different roles and responsibility of finance team, the program team, it will put more control structure as well. And definitely it will, minimize the, the non warrant parts which we have, discussed, like, the appropriation, misappropriations part. And it will help organization to introduce the robust control, structure, wherever we see, wherever organization feel that, there is a need to put some control, basis on the entire structure. It will definitely, implement and help them to put in that, plug in that gaps. And once we, cover up this cycle so far, it will definitely help to have a long-term financial sustainability. And, it will definitely enhance, overall credibility, I would say, of the organization. And definitely with the, best practices, we have, seen that wherever, evaluation, and wherever we seen the little failures with the regard to any of the defined substitution, there should be, a proper plan to it. And involvement of a third party as external provider, if possible, is also a good, way to, help each and every organization. And definitely with this, virtual thing, extend authorization in the IT system to have emergency representatives would also be a good key control under practices. Definitely, it will increase the monitoring of alternate control activities, which analysis of transaction or action that may your control gaps also. Even even with device, if you devise entire plan into a structure in a matrix, and post this COVID scenario, I'm sure if one should discuss with your senior management and board and institutionalize what controls can be imbibed and can be plugged in to have a more stronger control framework. Yeah. Uh, Definitely, I think moving to next is one of the key of topic is the financial policies and procedures. With this, all these elements are to start with this policies aspects, and it is very important to have these policies and manuals. Definitely, you will agree that manual always help all the staff, even head office as well as the state and field offices. It enable them to understand their responsibilities and how systems and teams fit together, and definitely to ensure compliance part as well. So if we see that each NGO's financial manual will be different, reflecting their circumstances and way of working. And for this reason, we always say there's no one size fits all approach. Every organization has a different environment and different structure. However, the best practices and the right structure, likewise the important elements which is listed here, helps each and every organization to put the right policies and procedures. Here actually, likewise, I'll put one example. Like we have seen recently, we were working one of the large development organization. They started actually online bank payment transaction post this COVID pandemic, and realized the importance with the need of an hour. Definitely, they were aware of these parts and have the controls, but similar way it is applicable to your organization and your structure and that environment that assess the needs, the need of a time. So what is the change, what is the revision, what is the reflection required in your financial manual, sorry, it will definitely key these aspects as well. And as we also seen in disaster support programs, like most of the organization work for the relief programs and related domain, say policies are important, but circumstances changing the position. Likewise, unavailability of resources, the distribution of material, non-availability of vendors. However, these if they plan these things at least in advance, discuss with the field team, what are the challenges, find out the solution at the right time, to avoid any dissatisfaction from the donor, and write controls in your policy manual so that nobody questions later, and it will lead to less audit findings or non-compliance to your policies. Likewise, always we put example that armed forces always says that prepared with all the circumstances and protocols defined to put country first. So in a similar way that while implementation, the team has to implement the program, has to maneuver the things based on the requirement, based on the donor understanding. However, the organization policies are equally important, and we should take more analysis. And we as a whenever we serve with few clients and with the audit and advisory services, and as a reviewer we feel if any cost gets disallowed due to that non-compliance of procedures or lack of the awareness of organization donor policies, which is expected to follow from the entire finance team, in sync with your program and task force and implementation team. And I'm sure we are sure that most of you have question in mind that sometimes finance team don't understand the realities and not sync with the program team. However, it is responsibility of both teams, I would say, as one organization to brainstorm and put right controls. Because again, I'll again mention that no one, one size fits all is no approach on that. there should be a requirement based on the organization implementation and the need and their experiences with the past projects. Definitely, it will help you to put right controls mechanism in your policy manual, to avoid any disturbance at later stage. And take advices wherever needed, to put these controls. So definitely, on these assessment, if you see the entire review of the entire manual, the review must be there, on frequent intervention. And with this change in the circumstances, the change in implementation methodology, change in the approach from the donors and field level aspects, finance team must have the right information also, for risk identification, where what can go wrong, or what can be betterly put in these manual. Definitely, it will help you to design your robust policies and procedures, and find it easier to work remotely, or compare to ad hoc requirements which comes in most of the time in different programs as well. And also, if we put these assessment at the right time, I'm sure wherever organization have strict financial policy, they will see the relaxation part, they will see to put in a reshape form, how it can help both the teams as an organization together, so that we are not lacking on any of the controls. And definitely it will revise your process and procedures with in a new shape. So seek approval from the senior leadership team, case to case basis, discuss, brainstorm. And definitely it will always advisable to push best practices in these policies and procedures. uh, Likewise, updations whenever it foresee, you will see that decentralization of controls, or in case you want to revise the delegation of authority with limits, it will help organization overall. And definitely it will ensure correct and accountable use of funds and other resources. It can be based on your revised forecast as well, how organization can plan more in future projects accordingly. Funds will help the finance team, and activity will help definitely a program team. So it is a a complete set where one has to, as a team, as a together organization, can think through. And definitely, if you see the correct and a good structure of the document, it looks like in this way, which the content is appearing on your screen. So it should have some objectives and the scope, the sub policies, statements. Here we have seen certain organizations have a very good finance manual, but it it weakens on the process part, where the the person as a staff cannot correlate with that document. And we always advise organization to keep this documentation in a in a read in a simple manner, so that you know entire finance team and or other external stakeholders, your wherever the relation part is there, they can correlate this part. It will not come as only a document. It should be used. It should be a team should understand, team should correlate what are their roles and responsibilities, what are the key controls, or how the timelines focused on each of the activity. And definitely certain formats which is a need of each and every reports, your ledger, your reporting. So its structure should be there. Largely, I'm sure it is an indicative one. One organization can add and modify according to the needs and on case to case basis. But these are must pointers which has to be there in your financial manual. And definitely uh, it should have sub policies and procedures. It should have flow charts, so that one can correlate with pictures right way. Sometimes text, too heavy text also not gives person a comfort, but here one explaining picture also can help. And it should definitely with your organization strategy and environment. It should not like that put up best practices and put you on your finance manual, where team may not find it relevant, and team may not correlate with your structure and environment. And definitely it will give overall key activities control, and it will refresh against the benchmarks which identified by the organization as well. I'm sure you can correlate more now with the structure, how it looks like, and everyone should have their views, and they can take this part as well while after this session as well. I think moving to next is the cash flow and the forecasting model. I think with the respect of time also, and if we see these forecasting models are very important in the current circumstances, where most of the organization uh, lack with right cash flow at the right time. In a few months, salary cost misdisbursed to the organization, to the few of the staff members, which is definitely one can cope with, one can find out the right solution, and I'm sure with this time with the new experiences, organization can think and put emphasis on this flow part as well. So we always assess that there should be a reassessment of the cash flow in the forecasting model. It should be verified and certified, so that it will give more comfort to the program team as well, which definitely by the finance team overall can help or develop detail these models. And definitely as a requirement also, likewise donors always ask for a disbursement kind of a request from the long term projects, that how are the activities to be planned by the organization, and how they foresee from the payments and cash perspective, the utilization of funds, which we say in a simple way. So all these elements are definitely are important. And with this different scenarios now, maybe with the optimistic view that definitely the organization will continue with different projects with different scenario. It will help you, it will help organization actually in putting the new financial thresholds, what needs to be there. Maybe we are putting a monthly activity, maybe we can go to a weekly or bi-monthly, so that it should be right analysis on all the critical factors. Definitely our payment cycles, on your regular salaries payment, your regular utilities expenses. So it will help write a preparation of the cash flow forecast, which also can be added with a scenario analysis, how the projects are running, how we are forcing with the pipeline activities, which it can be planned by the organization. And definitely while preparing these overall cash flow in the models, there should be a prioritization, where we see that few activities or a few aspect which is very near in future. So organization should plan in that way, and put on the priority as a first. And we see that outflow will take time, and a team can brainstorm with program team, and overall organization can sync with each other, so that we should have a right cash flow and forecast to make sure that we can pass on the comfort and transparency to donor as well. And we should manage our funds with these forecasting well. And definitely once organization collaborate internally in terms of with different teams, with different stakeholders, while assessing these, there should be a fixed format, structure, responsibilities, so that it will help in putting the optimization of right uses of funds, and how it needed, when it's needed. And definitely it will help also to assess or to reschedule some of the activities which is maybe not required by the time, and we can discuss with donors, we can discuss with internal stakeholders, that how best we can reassess these parts as well. And definitely as a overall, if we can summarize well, put these cash models and I would say a forecasting model together, it will definitely help every organization. I think last but not the least, I think importance of management information system. And likewise, we have discussed in financial reporting and management reporting, for external stakeholders and internal stakeholders. So it is just a summarize of all these aspects, which talks about your management information system, how it looks like, why it is important actually. So if we take away from all the topics which we have discussed, the finance and accounts team to ensure the consolidation of reports of all these aspects, the flows, with the disbursement request, with the donor reporting. So this will help you to put in MIS structure, which is important. And we have seen the organization where they have at least the control on management from the system. They can more confident in terms of reporting, more confident in analysis of funds management, program management, or whatever you can correlate with that. Definitely excuse me. So definitely in these cases, few aspects also we foresee that can be included. Largely it is a indicative. Definitely it vary from organization to organization, but there are few aspects which is non-negotiable, that your balances, your analysis of expenses against budget, your cash flow forecast, your compliance is very important in these days. The statutory and legal compliance status, how we are doing. Most of the organization we have seen prepare a compliance matrix. We have followed with these compliances at this point of a time, who is more responsible, who is the authorized person to do these parts. So if we see these systems, these are very important. And while putting this structure, we always recommend that there should be a right team taking that part. And wherever organization can spend, at least assign a dedicated person in the finance team with the part role, that wherever intervention and wherever the change is required to put this MIS, it should help actually organization. And few points we always say, put the MIS likewise, where we can integrate the technology, diminish manual intervention, so that these information which should appear in the MIS should have a correct picture, which could have a correct funds. There should be no manual or castings or other types of errors. And definitely it is very important, and it will help organization to find out the problems, even the solutions as well. Definitely when we put these MIS all together, it will help in the overall solutions also. And definitely it will take on the program side as well. Definitely if you see it is as a financials part, but it will help evaluating the impact project also, utilization of resources also. So overall if we see, these MIS are very important, and one should think of to put the right structure with these consideration. And I'm sure wherever the organization is following up with them, with the need of time, if they can reassess, re-emphasize all the aspects, and put and move progressively towards that. So I think I think I'll move to the other session of it, and would like to hand over to Sudhi. Sudhi, if you can just take with this session part here.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Vikas. Thank you so much. This has now we have reached to the last session today, and we have already received few questions on the chat box. So I'll try to summarize and pick a few questions here, and then we'll see if we are able to unmute few of the participants and allow them to raise their questions. I think the first of the question which I have seen a lot of discussion happening around is the availability of the handbook. So like Vikas Gambhir mentioned in the beginning, we would be sharing the extract of these handbooks with all of you in the coming days. And in the new normal environment, we are also working and customizing the existing handbook, and we'll share the updated version with all of you soon. I'll pick up the next question. Vikas Gambhir, if I can request you to answer this question. The question we
Sure.
have is what to be more focused in effective financial management in context of new FCRA Amendment 2020.
Right. See, of course, new FCRA aspect brought in a lot of aspects which has got a direct impact on, in some organization on their strategy also and their way of functioning. So depending upon what kind of organization you are, whether, it's a main recipient and of course you have got sub-grantees or you are one of the sub-grantee organization. First thing I think is to have a very detailed impact analysis of FCRA Act on your organization per se. And in case, the board or the chief functionary and other senior management have drawn a strategy around it, it has to flow from the top down. And there would be certainly changes in the financial management. Like I'll just try to give it with one example, that one of our known client who had a huge sub-grantee model, and post FCRA now they have gone back to direct implementation on their own, have their entire financial management structure undergone a huge change, because now their state offices has to take a larger role vis-a-vis what used to be earlier in terms of the sub-grantees or implementing partners taking that role. So there's no one particular answer, I'll say, but then of course it has to be brought up to a level wherein you have done that detailed impact analysis of FCRA implications on your organization, and then accordingly, update the structure also within not only finance function, but I think HR would also play a critical role in terms of redesigning those structures. Because in certain cases, we had seen that PMU models have also emerged amidst all this. So I would urge you, if there's anything specific, you have our email IDs, please feel to write into us, and we'll be more than happy to respond for any specific query you have on this.
Thank you, Vikas. Moving to the next set of questions, we have received a few set of questions which are more related to FCRA amendment. I would just like to update you that with Spare India and the other partners, we are planning to come up with a separate session on FCRA, and I presume all of your queries would be addressed in that session. But at the same time, please feel free to write into us, and we would be able to address your FCRA specific query on one-to-one basis. I'll move to the next question, and Vikas, Aruna, I'll request if you can pick up this question. The question what we have is, how are the process and controls suggested for the current pandemic situation differs from the normal situation?
Sure. So thanks for the question, and I think it is a very good, and I'm sure most of the organization have similar question in their mind. Likewise, we explain in the during the topic when we were discussing this aspect. One of the organization we have seen that they have the process in place to make the payments through a different channel. However, they were following with a similar way where it was the ease at that point of a time and that scenario. But with the circumstances change, they has to follow the other process, because the other process which they were following as a manually was not there at that moment of time. So it is equally important to have the process and the controls with this scenario, and it will depend on the organization to organization to assess what is actually you looking for the control and what is the process you are looking as an organization. And definitely there are multiple, not one I would say, multiple processes will change, from organization to organization, where like we put an example on the the travel constraint, to have a digital monitoring, put some app part is there where person should report in there. I'm sure these changes will has to be imbibed in now policy, and definitely some controls around that, so that one can manage, one can put best controls, and to have no any compliance on the policies and procedures aspect. I hope if we able to make you understand. But still, in case you have any specific and further query, likewise, Sudhi mentioned, please feel free to write to us.
I'll just also add on to what Vikas just mentioned. As we were discussing during the presentation also, we do understand that, especially in the current scenario, the resources are scarce. One thing which we need to do is the optimal utilization of our resources. Let it be the people, time, funds, all put together. And one of the key element and one of the change what we have witnessed with our set of clients and number of NGOs is the realignment of budget activities. You need to relook at your budget. You need to identify the activities which can be deferred and planned for the later part of the year. And it is important to refocus on the activities which are needed in the current environment. And one last control I would talk about is the collaboration. Collaborating with the peer group, with the other NGOs, which would effectively help us in reducing our cost, at the same time to meet our needs also. I hope this addresses your concern. I'll probably pick up one or two more questions, and maybe we'll request a few of the participants to ask their questions directly. So one of our repeated questions which we have received is which type of financial management strategies, especially in humanitarian response or the emergency response, are required? To answer to this question, one of the key aspect for or to handle any emergency or humanitarian response is the preparedness. Instead of us waiting for the exigency to happen, it's quite important for us to prepare ourselves, to have a vendor in place, to have the field resource identified with the senior management. We need to have some funds parked to handle to such response in the future. Some of the key elements like cash management and the related controls should be discussed and should be documented specifically for the emergency response. There could be a separate manual which could be drafted and put in place, especially for emergency response. And the manual will include the involvement of the senior management, as well as the exceptional approval which would be required for the response. I will probably pick up one more question, which is more on the internal control framework requirement for INGO. I'll just try to summarize this question quickly. The internal control framework for INGO would differ depending on the size of the organization, the vision and mission of the organization. We need to look at the strategy and the nature of operations, especially in the current scenario when we are reassessing the model of direct implementation or implementing the project through a sub-recipient. So to address this, there would not be any standard document which would be suitable or which would fit for each of the NGO. But having said that, you can write into us and we can help you in putting together this document or in sharing our specific inputs, based on the size and the structure of your organization. We have 5 more minutes left. I'll probably unmute a few of the participants and we'll try to cover as many participants as we can to address their questions. Shivangni, if you can help me in unmuting, I am not able to unmute Mr. Satyabhama.
Sure, ma'am. Mr. Satyabhama, can you just try to unmute yourself?
Hello. Yes. Hello.
Can I ask your question now, ma'am?
No, ma'am.
Ma'am, can we have your question, please? You raised your hands. Would you like to ask a question?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I think we can move to the next participant, Mr. Fakir Mohan. If you can unmute yourself.
Mr. Fakir Mohan, can you unmute yourself now?
Or in case anyone want to have the question, so we can
I'll
unmute them as well.
try to unmute Vishwanath Basu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, my question is, in the present context, in the FCRA rule, the overhead is only 20% allowed. In that case, in the salary section, which all salaries to be included and which are to be reported in activity section?
Yeah, I think here we are still waiting few more clarifications. But however, having said that, I think the ones which are directly allocable 100% for a program or a project can still move, because then you need to make sure that while drafting your budgets, those salaries as well as the nomenclatures should not raise questions and can be allocated directly to the program vis-a-vis the other support and admin, which can't be 100% be allocated. But then you need to be clear about those right from the budgeting stage, agree with the donor also, so that tomorrow, worst to worst case, if any questions are raised due to, on the organization, on FCRA scrutiny or something, at least you are able to substantiate it with your documentation.
Yeah, sir. And another question is that in the present year, as because this rule came in November, not September, I think.
Right.
So in that case, can we report in two part, or prior to September and post September?
Yeah, because see, the law was pretty clear from that date onwards. So I think we need to make sure that our view is, segregated accordingly, because it was effective from a certain date. So from post that, we need to make sure that we document it differently vis-a-vis what it was running the previous to that date, actually. But this would be a little jumbled here. I know this would be a little troubling time, because cutting across financial year in two parts, but that's realities we have to follow accordingly.
Yeah. Okay,
So,
thank you.
Thank you, sir. Can we unmute Titan Toral? Maybe we'll have one or two more questions. I hope, Shivangni, we are fine, though we have already reached, we have already
Maybe
crossed.
we can see if we are not able to answer all, maybe we can keep these FAQs
Yeah.
and try to revert back in the participant registration email IDs later down the line. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure, Vikas. So maybe we'll just have one last set of questions, and then we'll request the participants to share their queries with us over the email.
I can
Hello.
see. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Patel, you can have your question, please.
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Patel, we can hear you.
Hello. I'm Kashmir Singh. I'm Dr. Kashmir Singh from Punjab. Can I raise a question?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay. Well, we have a NGO 10-year-old, but up to date we cannot help any financial help from the government. So how can I help from the government for financial and for the other social works?
See, this is something actually beyond our, the subject and of course our competency. I'm sure there are many peer groups, people within the webinar who can help or support you, but or maybe you can reach out to Fair India, who has got inter-government mechanism also, who possibly can guide you how to do it. But honestly speaking, we won't be the right people to guide you on that part.
Okay. So I thank Mr. Gupta again, and thanks to all the participants for being a part of the session. We hope you were able to get good information about the financial management and then the related controls. And we are hopeful that we would be coming up more such sessions on different topics. Shivangni, over to you.
Thank you so much, Sudhi ma'am, for effectively moderating the session, and thank you to each of the panelists for such enriching discussion. Now, before we end the session, here are some administrative directions. Your certificates will be ready in 24 hours. You can visit our website www.sphereindiacovid19academy.org, and you can download your certificates by scrolling down and finding the name for today's session. It will be ready to download in 24 hours. However, if you are unable to do so, as some of the participants have faced the technical difficulties, do not worry. You can email us at the COVID-19 Academy @sphereindia.org.in, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. And if you have any query also, you can see the email IDs of all the panelists available on the screen. You can send the queries to them privately also, and you can send the queries to us also on COVID-19 Academy as well. So have a great evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining. We are going to declare soon. Thank you so much. I think we can end the session, Sudhi ma'am, now.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Shivangni. Thanks for your support. Thank you, everyone.
Sure. Thanks, everyone, who participated in the sessions. Thanks.
Mm.